How you got your sponsorship?
We on? All right. Good evening, everybody. Good evening to you, and good evening to you. Chodesh Tov. Rosh Chodesh Shvat. This is the Ilui?
Ilui.
So this shiur is for the Ilui of Avram ben Chana, Neshama Shel Ibn Aliyah. I believe the shiur has been sponsored by Yechida Bas Rachel. It's very kind. If anybody else wants to sponsor the shiur, they're welcome to do so. I would also like to dedicate this shiur for the refuah of all the people that have been wounded that are in hospital, as well as the safe return of all the hostages. I personally can't think of anything worse than being a hostage in enemy grounds. So I just want to offer that one of the most powerful tools that the human being has besides thought is actually speech. The world was created by speech. Hashem actually had to create an utterance, 10 of them, first of them being Yehi Or, let there be light, and then he carried on with another 10 utterances, and this is the power of speech. So I just want to maybe suggest or offer or urge that we all have this incredible power of speech, and it doesn't take much. If you're already making a bracha over something, or if you're going to learn some Torah, if you're going to do anything that has got anything to do with Kedusha, if you just beforehand say that this is for, and you dedicate it towards something like the return of the hostages, that our brothers and sisters should come home safe, it's not something small, and it has a big impact. So just something to think about. All right, Le'inyanenu, to the matter at hand. So I'm just going to recap a little bit for the people that are watching this for the first time. My name is Doron Yitzchak Gibor, and I'm not a rabbi. I'm a specialty coach, and I help people break through unconscious blockages. An unconscious blockage itself is a bit of a paradoxical term, because if a blockage is unconscious, and unconscious means unaware, then how do you know that you have an unconscious blockage, right? You've got to become aware of something that you're inherently unaware of. So it does happen. It does happen that a person can reach a place where they realize that there is a blockage or something that is happening on an unconscious level. And usually it's when a person goes into self-development. Self-development is a very, very, very big industry. And there's certain books that are known as classics, like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. The list goes on, but there's these, every library is full of self-development books. Now, just as a caveat, if you want to find the chokhmah that's inside self-development, it's all inside Pnimiyut Torah. So personally, it just happened to be my chelik that before I was Choser B'Tshuva, before I sort of came back into the light of Yiddishkeit in an expressed and revealed way, because for many years I was what I call a closet chassid. That means that I was into chassidut, and I was into Kabbalah, and I was into all the chokhmah of the Torah, but I didn't look like a Jewish man. So in my own personal journey, I got very, very, very deep and delved very deeply into the whole area of self-development. And self-development is basically where you develop yourself. You work on yourself and aspects of yourself in order to become a better version of yourself, so that you can live a better life. Okay? That's essentially why a person goes into self-development. And for the most part, self-development is about having some discipline in order to do a few things and think in a certain way. It's called a model of reality. You want to create a model of reality that creates a life where you are happy, content, fulfilled, healthy, prosperous, abundant, all of these things, right? You want to create a good reputation, so to speak. They say that I can't remember the exact pasuk, but there's a pasuk, I think it's in Pirkei Avot, that says V'keter Shem Tov Ole Al Kulam, that the crown of a good name is the highest thing that a person can achieve, because once you leave this temporary life, all that you have left in this world is your reputation. You cannot take anything into the next world, and you actually cannot take anything even into the coffin, like you're buried in your birthday suit. So I'll tell you what I discovered. I discovered that in self-development, you can clean up most of your life. You can improve most of your life with self-development. You can create a positive mindset. You can work towards goals. You can become very productive and optimal with your time. Which is what I did. But I found that, at least in my life, and it turned out that this is a human phenomenon, is that self-development is actually divided into, or not divided, but there are two phases of self-development. And a lot of people don't know this. There is the light phase, and then there is the dark phase. Okay? The light phase is the ra, ra, ra. You can do it. Be the light. Tachshov tov yeh tov. Amnon, how does it go in Yiddish? Tachshov, think good and it'll be good? Trying's good and trying's good.
Trach gut, wird sein gut.
Try good, yeah. I can't get that. I have a block against Yiddish. I'll admit that. So the light part self-development really is about getting you to do things like be the light. It's very feel good. Yeah, it's very feel good. And as I mentioned in previous installments, that the Chabad Rabbeim, their advice was stick with the light. Stick with the light, because if you go into the darkness, you don't know what to do, and all you're going to really find there is pain. I can tell you on good authority that pain is, if it's done right, it's a healing pain. It's not a suffering pain. In fact, if you don't deal with that pain then begins to overflow. And that overflowing is pure suffering. But when you go into it in a guided, facilitated way, then that pain becomes healing. In fact, there's an axiom in healing called you have to feel it to heal it. And so what the mind will do, the pleasure-seeking mind, is that it'll suppress painful things, focus on pleasurable things in order to not feel the pain. But that pain doesn't just disappear. It doesn't just go away. It gets suppressed into a certain place. And that place that it gets suppressed to is what Carl Jung calls the shadow. And that's what I deal in. I deal in the dark side of self-development. Now, why would a person even want to venture into this? Well, you'd want to venture into this because if enough pain gets suppressed, if enough dark aspects of a person's self get suppressed, then these suppressed aspects of the self, they begin to express themselves. They begin to show themselves. They begin to show up in your life. Okay? How do they show up? They show up as patterns. They show up as blockages. They show up as loops that it feels like I've got bad luck, or it feels like I'm hexed or cursed, or there's some conspiracy against me. And on a certain level, it may seem true, but as I've said before, the only common denominator between all of your patterns is you. So that means that while you may be experiencing a problem, the solution lies within the problem, and that's where we go in. So that's what I do, and this is why this matters. Now, being someone that is highly interested in esoterics and what I call complete frameworks of information, I became very fascinated to find out where in the Torah this information exists, because it works. Because when a person goes into their own shadow self, facilitated and guided, I want to stress that, okay? Then something amazing happens, is that these blockages or these loops, they dissolve and a person experiences a breakthrough. And a breakthrough, when it happens, it is never the result of trying harder. It's never the result of trying harder, which is paradoxical. Because if you think about it, something that, if let's say a person is trying to get past a certain something for years and years and years, and then all of a sudden a slightly different approach happens, and then that's something that they want to achieve suddenly just manifests effortlessly. It's quite bewildering, you know. It's quite bewildering. I've helped many a person achieve, let's say, a financial breakthrough. And a financial breakthrough happens when a person is able to earn a certain amount of money that they weren't able to earn their entire life. Imagine, I'm sure, if you don't have it, then I'm sure you know people that just can't make ends meet. They've got a certain income ceiling. And so the reason that when a person is able to break through an income ceiling, let's say, it makes no sense. It makes no sense that by looking within and finding a certain part of myself and loving and accepting that certain part of myself, and again, it's not just puppies and butterflies. There is pain that has to come out, a certain pain that you've been denying all this time. When this thing comes out, something gets dislodged. Have you ever cleaned out a room in your house and thrown away some things, and then suddenly found that you had so much space and it looks like a different room? Or let's say you cleaned up a cupboard and you threw away things, and now all of a sudden you've got this new cupboard, and then you've got this new space in your cupboard, and it just feels so different. It feels like you've got almost like you've upgraded your space. So that's basically very similar to what happens in the type of breakthrough that I deal in. Now, I've been doing this for about 8 years on an international level, and what I would explain it as, still do, is that I help people raise their vibration into what's called a bandwidth where those blockages don't exist. Right? So
you're not taking away the blockages, you're just elevating them above it.
Just say that again.
You're not taking away the blockage.
I'm not taking away the blockage. I'm just elevating the person. So it's not so much about taking away the blockage. I'm going to speak about vibration, frequency, and attraction. Okay? Now, this is not the law of attraction. For all of those out there that have read the law of attraction books and whatever, there actually is no law called attraction. Okay? And I'll prove it in 20 seconds. If it's a law, it has to work every time, all the time, for everyone. Okay?
Very good.
With attraction, there are two types of attraction. There is the attraction that we call magnetic attraction, which is actually called polar attraction. It's when you take let's say two magnets, and the positive side and the negative side, they're facing each other, and you hold them together, and you feel them wanting to come together. That feeling of them wanting to come together, that's called attraction. Okay? That's polar attraction, where negative and positive want to meet. Okay? We call that magnetic because magnets do it, but essentially it's polar. But then you've got an attraction where positive gravitates towards positive and negative gravitates towards negative. And that can't be polar attraction, because if you take a magnet and you turn it over and you've got positive and positive and you put them together, they will repel each other. If you put the negative and the negative together, they will repel each other. So what is it called? What type of attraction is it called when negative gravitates towards negative and positive gravitates towards positive? Like they say, your vibe attracts your tribe, or people come together with same interests. What's going on there? That's not polar attraction. That's called resonant attraction. Right? And you can see this if you take two guitars and they're both tuned to the same tuner, and you strum the one string on the other one, the same string on the other guitar will vibrate. Why? Because they are in resonance with each other. And you can also see this. You can say this, that when someone's saying something and you say, what? That really resonates with me. And you feel that. You feel that because what the person is saying and what you're receiving, it's like those two guitars. So that is my proof that there is no law called attraction, because there are two types of attraction. One that is governed by the law of polarity, that is called polar attraction, commonly known as magnetic attraction. And then one where there is resonant attraction, where positive comes to positive and negative comes to negative, and all that is a function of vibration, of the law of vibration. So there is no law of attraction. There is a phenomenon called attraction. There is a phenomenon. And in Chassidus, this is called the koyach moshech. Koyach is a force or a potential, and moshech is something that pulls or attracts. Okay? Unlike the Hebrew word for the law of gravity, which is not really a law, because it doesn't exist everywhere. Gravity in Hebrew is called koach ha-meshicha, the power of meshicha, attraction. But in Chassidus, this is called the koach moshech. So there is a phenomenon, there is this power that where attraction happens. Okay? So you can say that whatever's going on for you in your life, you are attracting. It doesn't mean that if you're attracting something negative that you're doing something wrong. I want to emphasize that. A lot of people... Say again? Oh, amen. A lot of people, they come to me and they're saying, this happened and this happened and this happened. What am I doing wrong? And I'm saying that's not how attraction works. It's like if you're going on diet, you don't get on the scale every day. Because some days you've got extra water in your body, some days you've got less water in your body. So this topic of attraction is something that exists. The topic of frequency is also something that exists. Everything is a frequency. And to quote specific rabbis that speak about attraction on YouTube, actually, one is called Rabbi Dov Ber Pinson, he's Chabad, and the other one is Australian guy that deals in Kabbalah. His name is eluding me at the moment. Label Wolf. Thank you very much, Rabbi Label Wolf. Right. So they speak about the frequencies of the neshama and how frequencies get matched. So this concept of frequencies is not something that is not Jewish or un-Jewish. And then all of this happens. There's a vibration which has a frequency which causes attraction. We live in a mathematical world on a physical plane. So to answer your question, Shlomo, is that if you want to attract something on purpose, from a physical point of view, you need to get yourself into a vibration where that attraction can happen. Okay? Now, if you're doing everything that you can and it's still not coming in, that means that something is going on with your own vibration that is keeping that which you want out of your experience. Because if you want something and you feel that you need it on a certain level, you want it, there is a pasuk that says, that Hashem opens up His hand and He satisfies every ratzon. Ratzon, you can call it a desire, but you can also call it a need. That if I need something, then it comes to me. So if you want or need something, and it's not coming into your experience, then that simply means, for better or for worse, that you're not able to tap into that specific vibration. Okay? So, what I help people do through the modality of shadow work is I help them dislodge something, let's call it a frequency jammer, that is keeping the person's being, their vibrational experience, out of having that what they want, or keeping that what they want out of their vibrational experience rather. And by elevating the vibration into that specific bandwidth, and I say bandwidth because a bandwidth, like a bandwidth is a collection of frequencies. Unlike a radio which has only one frequency, and a radio station's got one frequency, let's say 90 FM. If you're on 90, you can hear the radio. If you're on 89, you cannot. And if you're on 91, you cannot. It's only 90. But a human being doesn't have a single vibration. A human being can feel good and let's call it high on one day, and can feel bad or low on another day. And this feeling high or low or bad or good, this has a vibrational equivalent. Okay, we don't experience vibration, we experience emotion. So, once I started doing this work, helping people raise their vibration into new bandwidths where those blockages don't exist, and then all of a sudden these blockages disappear and what they want appears, that's what happens. So it's not that taking anything out. In fact, if anything, we're uncovering things, observing stuff, having a purge, so something does come out emotionally, and then how does a person usually feel after a good cry? Relief. Yeah. Because something energetic, in terms of the emotion, the heart emotion came out. It came out through the channels that they do come out, through the emotion, through the tears. And then there is something energetic got dislodged. Something from inside came out, and now there's space, a person feels relief. So again, it's a small way of explaining what happens on a very big, life-changing thing. Now, to my amazement, as I've said in previous installments, that I found that these three areas are lined out, they are outlined in the Torah. What are they called? They're called Banai, Chayai, Mezonai. Banai is my children, my boys, my sons. Chayai is my life, and Mezonai is my sustenance. So these three areas are Banai is intimate relationships. Chayai is chronic health. And Mezonai is an income or an income ceiling. Everyone's got one. Everyone's got one. On some level, everyone's got one. Some people have more than one, and some people have one that spills over into the other areas. But essentially, everybody's got one. And so, the Zohar says that Banai Chayim Mazoya lo b'mil tatalia ela b'mazal talia. That Banai Chayim Mazoya, the success in these three areas, which the Torah does not stipulate how you go about having success in these three areas. They're not dependent on a specific thing that you do, rather they're dependent on mazal. So, mazal, if you don't understand it, you can translate that as luck. But mazal, if what I'm speaking about in terms of my practice was that I help people raise vibration specifically through self-acceptance of disowned parts. And then through this process, a person's vibration rises. And let me tell you something, I've worked with hundreds of people. You can see it. It's not gentle. It's not sort of subtle. It's very, very, very demonstrative. It's very explicit, and it's very blatant. Okay, when a person suddenly doubles or triples their income, and people that have done this work for on a continual basis have like up to even 10x. I'm really not exaggerating. So it's very, very, very felt and very, like I said, just very blatant. So this leads me to believe that mazal, besides meaning luck or circumstances, besides meaning zodiac, I believe it means vibration. Okay? I believe it means vibration, because if we're living in an entire vibratory experience, this whole life is actually vibration, then there's certain things that the Torah says that you can do that will change your mazal. Does anybody know what they are?
Change your place.
Mishaneh makom, mishaneh mazal. That's right. If you change your home and if you change your name, you're very good. So the Torah says that if you change your name, and we see this, that when a person's very sick and they have a name change, if enough people start calling them that name, after a certain time, there is a change. And the same thing with moving. I'm sure that everyone has experienced this, that when you move, somehow life doesn't just stay ho-hum the same way. There's something starts to happen. I've just recently moved, and I'm feeling it now in my life, and it's not the first time, but these things are real. So this is basically the reason why this stuff should be important to people. Now, obviously, it's important to me because I deal with this every day, and I'm sort of obsessed with these things. I'm obsessed with human potential. I'm obsessed with as a coach, of finding the right things that make a dramatic change in a short amount of time. Baruch Hashem, I've learned a few things that really, really work, and I feel very blessed to be able to come and share these things from a Torah perspective. So, this concept of tzel exists everywhere in the Torah. In fact, we just read now in Parashat Shmot, at the very end of Parashat Shmot, Moshe says to Hashem, at the very end, he says, What are you doing? Why have you done bad to this nation? Ever since I've come to speak in your name, he says, Hatzel lo hetzalta et amecha. Okay? Now remember, I've said in previous ones that tzel is the shoresh of many serious words, like tselem, like atzilut, like tzela. It's also hatzala, like saving or rescuing someone. So when you come to rescue, so Moshe is saying to him, it's called a lashon kafel. That's a double language that even Yosef used, he says that the Goel will use a double language, will say, Pakod yifkod itchem. So Moshe says, Hatzel lo hetzalt et amcha. Hatzel lo hetzalt et amcha. So you can read it as saved, save, you have not saved your nation. Or what Chassidus does is that it takes things literally, like it takes words that may not be as they're known, and says, well, listen, this letter, and this letter, it spells out this word, and you can't ignore the fact that it spells out this word. So Hatzel means, if you had just take that word by itself, Hatzel means the shadow. So you could say, like Moshe is saying, the shadow, Hatzel, lo hetzaltet amecha. You did not save, or you did not bestow shadow upon your nation, which I find like very, very, very profound. And
What do you think that means?
so, what do I think it means? I think it means you have not saved your people in the pshat sense. From a deeper sense, I think only Mashiach will be able to tell us, because I look and search high and low for sources on shadow, and I get breadcrumbs. Literally, when I say breadcrumbs, I'm talking about one crumb, and then another crumb, and then another crumb, and then another crumb. I'll give you one of these crumbs right now, and I'll come back to what I was saying. I was blessed to find out, in my own work, in my own obsession, that there is a connection between these three areas, Banai Chayim Azonai, and the shadow. Okay, this is the work that I did, and this was what I found. It says in the Tanya, by the Alter Rebbe, the founder of Chabad, in Perek Chaf Vav. Chaf Vav is a very special gematria. It's 26, and it's the gematria of Yud Kei Vav Kei. And nothing that the Alter Rebbe did was by coincidence. So in Perek Chaf Vav, which starts on page Lamed Bet, which is 32. Lamed Bet is Lev, heart. And then it moves over into page Lamed Gimel. What did I say about Lamed Gimel last week, Shlomo? Lag Ba'omer Galenai 33 is Pnimiyut Torah. It's a very important number. It's the difference in gematria between Emet and Da'at, truth and my perception of my consciousness. So on page Lamed Gimel in the Tanya, the Alter Rebbe he mentions for the first time Banai Chayim Azonai, and he also mentions on that page for the first time Tzel. Mentions shadow. I'm not drawing any conclusions. I'm just saying that, look, in Tanya, Perek Chafav on Lamed Gimel, the words Banai Chayim Azonai, these three areas of blockage are mentioned for the first time, and the word Tzel is mentioned for the first time as well. Okay, I'm not drawing any conclusions. I'm not even going into the content. It just happens to be also that in Likutei Moharan of Rabbi Nachman, in Torah Kuf Ayin Beit, which is 172, he also speaks there. He doesn't call it Banai Chayim Azonai. I think his lashon is Banim, Briut, and Parnasa. I think that's the way he says it in Likutei Moharan. Banim or Yeladim, Briut, and Parnasa. So basically children, health, and Parnasa. And there he says also that these chesronot, these lackings, come about from Tzel. In Kufayin Bet. He goes on to say that Tzel, a person brings on themselves by their own deeds, and that the Tzel becomes something like actually real that blocks light. So I took this as a very big high five from the Alter Rebbe and from Rabbi Nachman, arguably two of the greatest souls and greatest rabbis that lived sort of in our times. That there is indeed a connection between these three areas of blockage and shadow specifically. Okay, so that's why this should matter to us. As I've mentioned before, the Tzel shadow. Let me just start again. it should matter to us. The concept of tzel or shadow should matter to us because it affects our lives in a real way. If you have an income ceiling, then it's got to do with shadow. If you have a problem with zivug, or you can't get into a relationship, or you keep on getting into the same wrong relationship that ends the same way, then it's it's connected to shadow. And if you have chronic health issues, that also is connected to shadow. So that's why it should matter, because everyone's got a blockage somewhere, and everybody at some point should want to at least enlighten themselves or dispel as much unawareness, which is also like the darkness in the mind, within their own consciousness of who they are. I've mentioned before that this happens. There is a darkness that gets created because Hashem created the world zeh l'umat zeh, in polarity, and not only is there a zeh l'umat zeh, as in darkness and light within our own minds, but there is actually a gravitation towards the light. And if there's a gravitation towards the light, I call this emotional photosynthesis. If there's a gravitation towards the light, that means there is a gravitation away from the darkness. And that's why this work needs to be facilitated, is because you can't necessarily find your own darkness because you have your denial to battle with or to deal with. That's why it's got to be facilitated, because someone else, a facilitator, doesn't have your denial to deal with. They've got their own denial to deal with. So that's why it should matter on the simplest level. On an esoteric level, it's mind blowing, at least for me, to what levels this concept of shadow actually reaches. It reaches like the highest level, or the most primal or primordial level rather, that shadow is created by obstructing light, and at some point all there was light. The Or Ein Sof, all there was light, and in this singularity nothing could exist. And so something had to obstruct that light and create shadow in order for something else to exist. So again, this means that if shadow was the way that we went from a singularity to a duality, then that means that our own journey back to a singularity of consciousness, call it enlightenment, call it Das Hashem. It says that in the Tanakh Geula there'll be a Daya or a Das of Hashem. V'tirbe hadas, it says also in Sefer Daniel. V'tirbe means that it will increase, so that there will be an ascension. It just happens to be that V'tirbe is Gematria Taryag 613. So this is really important, at least to me it is. But this is really, really important stuff, because when we talk about consciousness, the Geula doesn't just mean an end of war. It doesn't just mean the Beis Hamikdash. It doesn't just mean that things will be Chadesh Yamin Kedem, that things will be like they were, like in the place of Kedem, in Gan Eden. It means that there is going to be a very, very, very big difference in how we see the world, how we see ourselves. Our actual conscious experience of life, of this world, is going to be extremely, extremely, extremely different, because it says that there's not going to be a Yetzer Hara anymore. That there's actually, and what this means is, it means that there won't need to be a Yerida before an Aliyah. This is like crazy. Can you imagine something expanding without contracting first? Can you imagine, I give you a spring, I say, make this expand, and then in Geula it'll be able to expand without you contracting it first. We can't fathom this. At least now, we can't fathom what this means. Can you imagine jumping without bending your knees? It doesn't happen. You can't do it. There's got to be some force that propels any expansion or any liftoff. Are we done with time? Wow, that went quick. So I'm a little bit over time, so I'll just finish off with this. Shadow is not a bad thing. Shadow is part of who we are. Shadow is the if you want to, shadow is Tzel, and the highest world is Atzilut, and we say that Hashem is Ma'atzil, right? That he bestows upon, like Ma'atzil is like to bestow this emanation upon us. So I want to just, and I'll finish with this, and my apologies to the next speaker. When you're in the desert and all there is light on you, if a person comes and he is Matzil Otcha, then he provides shade, Matzil. He provides shade and therefore rescues you. That's what Hatzalah means. Because you're in the cast of the shadow. You're under the obstruction of light. But that's just this light over here. When Hashem was Ma'atzil, everything into creation, what he obstructed was the original light. So when we stand in the shade of the secondary light that we live in now, then we get rescued. But when Hashem is Ma'atzil, when we stand in the shade of this powerful light, the original light, we get given existence. And the connection between Matzil, without an aleph, saving or giving shadow, and Ma'atzil, of bestowing emanation, is the same. All it is, the only difference is an aleph. And it's the same difference between Golah and Geulah. That Golah is exile, but if you just add an aleph into that, you get Geulah, which is redemption. Please God, we should all merit to see good things and to find our way through the shadows. All the chatufim should come back safe and sound, and have a wonderful Chodesh. Chodesh Tov.